Nigel, can we just start with team news? How's the squad looking ahead of 2 games over the Easter period?
Yeah, okay. We've got Cal Naismith trained fully today, and Tomas is back out there too. So he'll do a bit more over the next week. So yeah, hopefully we'll have both of those players back after the Easter programme. In some guys, on top of that, Alex Scott's making good progression. So again, not for this weekend, but afterwards, hopefully he'll be available.
Yeah, there was some talk of Cal returning for Stoke. Is that just a bit too soon for him?
It's really about us. The answer to that is yes, in some ways, but it's more about us making sure that he's back and stays back. You know, that's the big thing. So he needs to build up the amount of training that he does. So he was involved in the 11v11 this morning, which is always an important part of the week's preparation. So, and he was fine. So no problems with that.
You were encouraged by the performance against Reading. I guess you want a similar performance at Stoke, but a bit more cutting edge.
Yeah, I suppose that's one way of putting it. Look, if we perform like that in every game, I'll be pretty happy because we'll win games. I think our performance certainly deserved a lot more. I can't think anybody who went to that game and saw it live would think we did anything other than played well. So that's just sometimes the nature of football or the way it goes can be very frustrating. You know, a side who didn't really create anything and got a goal from a set play, and we've defended set plays particularly well for quite a long time now. So, you know, unfortunate, but like I say, those types of standards are what we're looking for in every game, and that is to move the ball quickly, to cause a threat in the box, and it was good for Tommy to get back and get on the score sheet. So positives as well as some frustrations this year.
Absolutely. We talked about Tommy after the game on Saturday. You're probably a player who wants to play both games over. Are you still managing him, bearing in mind that was his first start since January, wasn't it?
Yeah, and we decided before the game that 60 minutes would be tops for him, and so he went 60 minutes, but he was definitely start to blow up before that. So it's about being realistic. You've got to remember that players who play in a very explosive way like he does, you've got to be sensible, and I don't want players pacing themselves either. That's one thing I can't stand, and that is players who just try and get through situations. I want them to play flat out, and if it means that they only last for half a game, then I'll accept that more than somebody who just wants to look after themselves.
And we also talked after the game about Anis and Harry, who only joined the club in January. Is it as simple as a goal might just kickstart things for both players?
Yeah, maybe. The thing for me is this, that forwards, you want them to score goals because that's how they judge themselves. But providing they're doing what the team needs and what we ask them to do, then I'll be relatively happy with that. And that's the thing, that players are asked to do a job for the team, and both of them work very, very hard. Yeah, they both want to score a goal because I think that will settle them down somewhat. But there's lots to come from both of them, so I don't worry about that too much.
And Stoke have had a couple of notable away victories in recent weeks. Right. What kind of opposition will they be for you on Friday?
Well, they're in a good run. So, one of the form teams, they're 1 point ahead of us. So it's always a tough game when you go there. And the game that we played just after Christmas was a disappointment for us in terms of how we conceded on that day. We caused ourselves a few problems. they're our next opponent, so it's just one of those things that we want to try and win the game to finish the season as well as possible. But it will be a difficult game because they've got some good players. Powell's come back into the side up top, and he presents a different type of a threat. Smallbone, who just plays behind, is a creative player. They've got some good energy in midfield too. But again, it's a game in which we'll certainly have our chances if we go there with the positive intent to do the type of job that we want to do on them.
And you spoke to Ed last week about motivation between now and the end of the season, and the performance against Reading showed there's plenty of motivation. In terms of the summer and looking forward, do you have in your mind who you want to keep at the club, who you might consider letting go, or are players still playing for their futures between now and the end of the campaign?
There's only question marks over 2 or 3 players, and discussions are ongoing. Outside of that, this will be the first summer since I've been here that we've not got a lot of players out of contract. So I would expect this summer to be more of a more positive summer in terms of us adding to what we've already got, rather than replacing departures, for want of a better term. So yeah, this summer will be important, but players have always got plenty to play for, and if they don't think so, then they won't play, quite frankly. So it's quite straightforward as far as I'm concerned. There's no such thing as a dead rubber in my mind. There's always something that matters, and firstly, we want to finish the season well, because if we can't make any further progressions this year, then it's about preparing for next year. That's how the mentality has to go. So the players are fully aware, and there's a lot of competition within our squad. Now it's up to us to continue to try and improve our own standards. That's really what it's about. And so that's just my view on it. There's always something to play for.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
And Cal, because you've been so patient in his recovery, do you need to be cautious with his game time when he does come back?
I suppose a lot will depend on the state of the pitches as well, and how he feels himself. So I'm not. There's no point generalising about players. We're always mindful of whether players are whether they are either confident or whether they have that physical robustness. So it's different with each player, but for players who experience one injury and then pick another one up afterwards, and we've had a couple of those over the last year or so, I think psychologically it's quite a challenge for them. So it's important for us not to put undue risk in front of the players that hinders their commitment to play and commit to going out there. And I mean, Cal's, once he's on the pitch, he just he becomes what he is on the pitch, and that is a player who drives other players on and sets high standards for himself. So that's up to us to pitch it right and make sure that it's as safe as it can be, but you can never get rid of risk altogether.
Do you think you've missed him from an attacking perspective, and the way
from
an attacking perspective, and the way you can
deliver the ball?
Yeah, progressive passes.
Spit it out. Yeah, I mean, look, he can see passes that other players can't. He's good at breaking lines. He hits he hits great diagonals. He's got a good range of passing. So, everybody's got their strengths and weaknesses. We've missed him in the same way that we probably missed Matty James when he's not been there, Alex Scott when, Sykesy. Every player's got their strengths that they bring to the team. What we have to do is give opportunities to other people and let them bring their strengths to the team. That's why it's always important to have a good blend. But the important thing is that the players understand what the team is. and then they bring their qualities and their personal identity to the team's identity. It's the team's always more important than one player. Simple.
Just going back to Anis Mehmeti, I think he's shown glimpses of what he's about and what he's capable of.
Yeah.
I think by his own admission that he's got plenty more to offer to show. How do you think he can take his game to the next level? Or what does he need to do?
He just needs to be himself and enjoy his football. He's quite an intense young man. He's already in his what's been a short career, he's experienced rejection, and he's fought hard to get back in and created a really positive situation for himself, and that is get a move to an ambitious championship club in us, and he's got a manager who's patient. So, it's about us as staff helping our players to reach their potential, and even if he's a bit not disappointed, but if he's frustrated in some ways, he won't get that sort of reaction from us, because it's about, as a young man, he's got lots of ability and he's got scope to improve, and he will, but patience is something that, and time is something that you don't necessarily get a lot of in football, especially in my game, but I think when you are investing time in young players who have ability, you've got to be prepared for them to be not as consistent as sometimes we would like, but you've got to remember Anis's backstory. So he's very impatient with himself sometimes, and of course that can put added pressure on him. But he'll be fine. Don't worry about that. He's a match winner.
Just spoke to Rich here about the talks between some players and the futures going forward. So is there an update on Zach Viner's situation at the moment, the contract situation?
No, not any official updates, no, because those are discussions that are ongoing, and Zach's had a great season for us, really good season. So I understand that there's speculation, but he's a player that we'd like to keep.
Okay, that's good. And the summer recruitment, I noticed since you've been here, you haven't really gone and signed players from abroad, probably because you've had no money to do that, I imagine.
Probably.
But now you've got money. Was that a consideration to sign players? And
if it was beneficial to us, I don't have any qualms about where players come from. Not a problem. It's just whether we think they're the right players for us. So, I don't think of it in those terms. I don't really understand the question either. But in as much as players are available to us, who worldwide, aren't they? But whether they're the right players for us, where we are at the moment, is a different thing. So I don't rule anything in or anything out. We've been in the market for players from abroad over the past 2 years, but have not been able to do the deals because other clubs have gazumped us with more money. So it's not that we haven't been looking abroad, it's just that we've not been able to do those deals.
Do you generally get better value for money signing players abroad though than you do?
That used to be the case, and from some markets, yeah. But you can't generalise, because the financial climate's changed here. So it's not about transfer fees, it's about wages these days, more often than not. There's a lot of players available on, the clubs aren't Championship clubs. Premier League clubs are spending millions and millions, of course they are. But we have to be mindful of how we spend our money, and it's much more cost effective to be in the market for players who are available on a free, but we have a wage structure now which we're not prepared to move outside of, really, because there's got to be an element of fairness, and we want to have a as sustainable as possible operation, which it's not been.
Last week you spoke about Mark Sykes' charge and the videos you're going to send back to the FA. I was wondering if there's been an update or a response from them.
Yeah, but that's between us.
Okay, fair enough. Is it a response that you're happy with, or?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's not available.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. But Kevin Friend, who is a decent man, he always gets back to people, and the dialogue's always positive. And don't make the assumption. I'm not against people. I'm against inconsistency. That's what I don't like. You know, I don't go out of my way to be antagonistic. What I don't like is people who give you bullshit.
I was just wondering whether they know if they can find a solution to the inconsistencies.
Well, look, they haven't even done that in the Premier League with VAR. Even with VAR, they're making mistakes. So for me, it's about knowledge of, you know, I see players on a game I watched the other day diving, cheating, and not being booked. I just find it bizarre.
And finally, from me, I thought it was interesting but not wholly surprising that your name with the bookies is among those linked with the vacant Leicester position. I just wanted to get your take on it, really, if you had one at all.
I don't have a take on it. And look, I've been very... I've managed them twice. I've managed King Power's team in Belgium too. and really enjoyed working for them. But that ship has sailed, and I'm really happy to be here doing the job that I'm doing here. You know, so they will be looking to make a progression from where they are now, and you know, going back, revisiting things from the past isn't always the way forward. Let's be honest. And I'm fully committed to what I'm doing here. It's as simple as that.
Thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Hi, Nigel. Obviously, Mark Sykes isn't available because of that suspension. Is there a different kind of method with him? Does he have a different training schedule now? Does he have to focus?
No, he's training with us. You know, look, it's at the stage of the season now where we're, you know, single figures games left. He's a really fit lad. It's unfortunate that we're missing him. He's just going to have to make sure he keeps himself ready for when he's next available, because he'll need to break back into the side. So he'll be doing what the rest of the players are doing and doing stuff on top of that. But you know, it's more maintenance than it is development with him.
Tommy Conway made his debut for the club under yourself 2 years ago. Just how much did he change from being that teenager that made his debut to what he is now? Have you seen a lot of development in him?
Well, you must have done. So I think everybody has. He's a player capable of being one of our premier strikers at the club. You know, he's a really good goal scorer. He's got a good personality, which I think is very visible to everybody who watches the game. And he's an opponent, I'm sure, that when teams look at us in preparation for when they're players, he'll be a name that's mentioned a lot. So, but it's still early years for him, and he's got a lot of development to go, and I'm sure he'll have a great career.
And we're speaking to Omar next. Someone, he's had a string of games now. How beneficial will that be in his long-term plans going forward? He's had this taste of championship football, because obviously he's seen a few players who've had a taste for championship football and then the next season.
Well, he's had a taste of maybe 4 games, isn't it? Something like that. So it's very early days, but he's got the attributes, and in terms of his physicality, he's aggressive. We've not seen the best of him technically yet because he's a decent player, and so look, he's got a long way to go, but I'm really pleased with what we've seen so far. And I'm sure when you speak to him next, you'll see he's got a bit of humility about him, which is, if he hasn't, no, he has. So he's a young man who's, again, been close to not being given a contract here in the past, and he's worked hard to work on his game. And so the rewards are there for everybody to see. And I think that's something for a wider picture with all of our youngsters in the academy, that he's another player who is an example of working hard in the right way. At some point you may get a chance, and that's how it's got to be. You've got to work hard in life to get on. Doesn't matter whether you're gifted or not. If you're gifted but are lazy, you're destined for failure, I'm afraid.